or it feels like it. And the previous speakers said how they have little influence on people. You know, that people will thank them for how they affected their lives. And I would like to propose that those people that will thank you are just a small fragment of those that you don't know about, that you still made an influence, a big influence on their life. And Art was one of those people that I clamored to get in his class because he was a superstar, and I wanted to know why. And of course, his radicalism, if you will, was part of what attracted a lot of young people to his class, because his ideas were not to dumb your mind, but to open your mind. That is dangerous. That's one dangerous man right there. So, I was born in a little town called Bethlehem on the west bank of the Jordan River in 1950, and lived a very normal and easy childhood. Big family, very loving, and a farmer family. So we had a farmhouse and a city house where we spent 4 months out of the year on the farm, and then the rest of the year we went back to Bethlehem to let the children go to school. So having that background of living on a farm was very, it affected my life a lot, because the farms are honest. They don't lie to you. Dirt does not lie to you. If you get dirt under your fingernails and you plant things and you see them grow, there's a causal relationship. You can see life from the beginning, from a little seed that I, as a child, and my father and my other and brothers and sisters did, put a little seed into the ground and watch that seed become vegetable or fruit that we relied on. Almost 100% of our food came from our farm. We bought sugar, coffee, rice, and tea. Everything else, our olive oil, our sun-dried tomato was not a culinary term to us. It was not, oh, we have sun-dried tomato. That's how we dried our tomato. We didn't have Mexico to import vegetables from, or Chile, all right? So we relied on our food. Why am I saying that that's important? Because it still affects me as I grew up as a kid on that farm. I'm still very affected, and my views are very directly related to that. In other words, I learned the importance and the sanctity of life from being a farmer, okay? And from parents who taught me right and wrong, and who also happened to be religious, and that religion was Islam, but they were not preachers. They did not make me pray or fast. So that was my background as a child. In 1967, in June of that year, things changed for me. There was the 6-Day War between the Arab-Israeli War. We call it 6 days because it lasted 6 days. It really lasted more like a day. But anyhow, after that, my home, Bethlehem, where I lived, my family, came under occupation. So we have, and now they have, been ruled by military law since that day, since June 5th, 1967. Military law does not offer you the same rights as a civil law does. So it curtails your freedoms quite a bit. So every aspect of their lives, and mine for a while, because I lived there till October of '68, so a year and a half under the Israeli occupation. I realize, of course, that my future has become dimmer, and less possibilities existed for me. So after high school, I hightailed it out of there. I was a fortunate one, somebody who could do that. I had an avenue. I had a brother that graduated, got a master's degree from the University of Oregon, and was willing to help me with tuition and to get to the U of O. And so I came from that, right off the turnip road, if you will, to Eugene, Oregon, where I went to the University of Oregon with the intent of getting a 4-year education, going back helping the folks. They're still waiting for me. So they still think I'm coming back. The reason why didn't I go back, part of it is because of the occupation. I mean, a great part of it. Basically, I would have to do a trade-off of living under the occupation to be near my family and friends, and the ones I grew up with. But I would have to give up my freedom. I would have to give up freedom to speak my conscience. Right now, as I'm getting near my deathbed, the most important thing to me, and again, that harks back to learning something real at the farm, is my conscience. Because guess what? The Israelis occupy my land, and when I go to visit, I have to go through and obey every rule they have, which are very restrictive and very inhumane. So I can't do too much about that, but the one thing that I can always do, that I have the freedom to do, and I want you to take note of that, is they can oppress you, whoever they are, okay? But your heart is free. Your conscience is free. Don't let them oppress or occupy your heart. Because if they take that away from you, they took way too much. You control that. You need to be strong enough, educated enough, intelligent enough. Have a healthy heart, a healthy conscience, to where they cannot invade it. They cannot occupy it. That is vital for you. In any struggle that's meaningful, you must start at home first. You must be strong at home first. You must not be angry, because otherwise that's the message you put out. You must not be sick, because that's the message you put out. So to me, it is not black rights, it's not Palestinian rights, it's not Chicano rights, it's not Indian rights, it's human rights. Because guess what, folks? Every one of us, the commonality that we have, the biggest commonality is that we're all humans. Okay? I totally identify with those speakers in their own struggles to be recognized as full human beings. Okay? They say, I am black and my skin tells everyone I am black, and therefore I struggle as a black person. Yes, very, very true, but you also struggle as a human. As a human. The cause is human cause. I have been working on the Arab-Israeli issue, try to build bridges between Arabs and Jews so they can talk and see the humanity in one another, so they can possibly get out of their anger and their prejudice and their hatred, okay? And start talking to each other as humans so they may find a solution, so they may help themselves and their children and their great-grandchildren, because they, I believe, have the rights to their own lives, and they could commit themselves to waste them or spend them in hatred and fighting and animosity. But I feel that they are very unwise, they, including me, of course, if they commit their children's lives to that. If they teach their children hatred and distrust and animosity. So they must free and liberate their own selves in order to liberate their own children. But if all they teach their children is that we are people, we are the chosen people. The others are not chosen. There is a danger, a huge danger in that. There is somebody who is of the Torah or of the Bible or of the Quran who say, there's a God and there's a lesser God. And I was created by the real God. Everybody else was created by the lesser God. We won't stand a chance in hell if you are from that tier. It becomes a caste system without being labeled as a caste system. You're relegated to being the servant, the nannies of us, the people from the greater, that were created by a greater God. Now, Art and others may have mentioned ISIS or IS, Islamic State. And he says, we've created this. I applauded you very much for saying that, because part of the old divide and you shall conquer is, it's worn out, but it works, and it's well-used tool to this day. I come and whisper in Lily's ear that, guess what Art said about you? And suddenly I created enemies and I go sit down and enjoy my cup of coffee because they're fighting amongst each other, right? So we create this world has created this for a long, long time, okay? So now, and especially after 2001, I moved away from being an activist, if you will, on the Arab-Israeli issue to defend Muslims, to speak about that, no, there are 1.6 billion Muslims, and if there are 10 million bad ones, that's still almost an insignificant number for you to lump everybody as if we're bad people. That's your laziness speaking. That's your lack of education. That's you not wanting to find out that I'm a Muslim who happened to be a really nice guy. I know it's a rarity, but it really could exist, right? So that is what happened after 2001. I owned a restaurant and I had a couple of people throw bricks through my window. I've been a peacenik, human rights commissioner for the city of Eugene, 2 terms, and suddenly I am the enemy, right? If somebody hurt me, the victims of 2001 would come back to life. I don't know what the logic behind that is, but obviously not very logical. So now I'm again trying to help facilitate some understanding for those that want to hear, because a lot of people don't want to hear. They're afraid to ask. What is the, do Muslims have their children for breakfast? Do Muslim mothers really love their children? I mean, we become the other, the voiceless, okay? The ones that we can throw rocks at and feel good about it. Let's kill the Muslims because obviously they're the disease. Do we remember how history, speaking of history, how Lily said you need to know what your past is so you know what your present, where you're going from here? It was not long ago that the Jews were thought of as bad people. If we just get rid of them, the world would be a better place. 6 million of them got slaughtered in the most ugly, hideous way ever. We are on the verge of polarizing ourselves so much to where those kind of catastrophes can happen. It's not as simple, just as creating an enemy over there 10,000 miles away or 8,000 miles away. As you well know, now we have Mr. Donald Trump who wants people like me to register. Do we remember our history? The Japanese registered. They were put in encampments, right? Our history, this is the greatest democracy in the world? Oh man, I beg to differ. I beg to differ. It's a very sick democracy. It needs a tremendous amount of help, and you guys are help. You need to have the critical think. You need to be the critical thinkers. You need not to be scared of somebody who does not look like you.
Yes.
You do not need to be so scared of somebody with an accent or with a different religion. You need to embrace it to the degree to where your ears are open to it. Okay? You need to remember my humanity when you're speaking to me. Not my religion, not the labels that somebody put on me. Because I struggled very hard to overcome the labels. With it, my greatest jihad is making myself better. In Islam, the greatest jihad is self-reformation. That's the greatest of jihad. But guess what do you know about jihad? Kill the infidels, right? Well, I am sorry for your media, because you become, in your own tiredness, in your own weariness, because a lot of us come home from work or school tired, we kick off our shoes, and what do we grab for? The almighty remote. And in 20 seconds to 5 minutes, we want to know everything about the world. And we hear it from Fox, from CNN, and in our own weariness, all we can say is amen, because we're too tired. We have our favorite beverage in hand, we kicked our shoes, we're in our lazy boy, we're in the most comfortable chair. Our dukes are down. Our critical thinking is almost non-existent. So what do? We become like sponges. We suck up that information as if it's gospel and truth. And I tell you, it's nothing further than the truth. Okay? It is programming us to become copycats, to become easy to govern, to not have critical thinking. While we think we live in the freest country in the world, but free is a very deceptive term. I know it's time to let you guys get a chance to ask your panel, so I will stop and let you guys get a chance to ask everybody else questions.